You may or may not be aware that before the Sarah Jane Smith adventures, CBBC had an idea for a Doctor Who spin-off show that would have focused on the Doctor's younger years. However, Russell T Davies shut it down because he, rightfully in my opinion, thought that it might take away a little bit too much mystery from the Doctor. So it was replaced by the Sarah Jane Smith adventures and never got made. Except maybe it did as something different. A CBBC show called Leonardo. There's a small rumor going around that this show was that Doctor Who spin-off, just reworked after Russell T Davies shot the idea down. In today's video, I'll be going over that rumor, all of the comparisons and speculations I can make, and more. I always try to give credit where credit is due. Pretty much this whole video was inspired by Nate Bumber, aka Dr. No Longer on Tumblr. I'll be linking the original rumor post that I referenced throughout this video in the description because it was so interesting, and it was something that inspired me to watch Leonardo and make this entire video, so it's worth giving a read if you're interested on the topic. I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit about what the rumor says. Leonardo is what the Young Doctor spinoff was going to be, Fantastico as his catchphrase. The series would follow the Doctor, Master, Ronnie, and friends, uncovering a conspiracy within the Academy and Time Lord Society. The Doctor and the eventual renegades at the heart of it all. The Doctor's ideas being stolen, his future being foreseen, Time Lords trying to stop it, etc. The cast, I believe, would have been the same, along with the budget, filming locations, and costumes, just adapted to be more sci-fi. CGI shots of Gallifrey, actual futuristic technology, classic monster cameos, that kind of thing. Most, if not all, of the ideas for the Younger Doctor series are in the Leonardo trailer still, as they kept 99% of the concept. The independent company tasked with adapting it had already done all the development before the idea got canned. Storylines, scripts, characters, costume ideas, locations, sets. If you watch the first series, the story arc and scripts should still be clear what they originally were, so it still sort of is, in a weird way, a bit of Doctor Who media. I have been told that the source of the rumor is reliable, but it's safe to say that it is a pretty bold claim to make. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have some merit to it. As a fan of the Academy era and Decca sides of the Whoniverse, I basically jumped at the opportunity to watch a show, and I found a lot of similarities in terms of the rumor, the show, and what we know about the Academy era. So you're gonna have to forgive me because this Academy era section is going to be very brief. As I said, it's one of my favorite corners of the Whoniverse, and I found that when I started talking about it or writing about it, I could not stop. The Academy era is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's the era or segment of time that the Doctor and the Master would have been attending the Academy on Gallifrey. There's a lot of interest and love for this concept and this time and this era, particularly in the fandom. I think just because it's really interesting and fun, and there's a lot of potential. A nice little egg of Academy era content is Gary Russell's Divided Loyalties. The novel establishes the Doctor as being a part of a sort of friend group called the Decca, which is comprised of him and 9 other Time Lords who are mostly recognizable characters. For the purpose of this video, I'll stick to the basics and just mention that the Master, the Ronnie, and the Monk are part of that friend group. Asmael from the Twin Dilemma is also mentioned in Divided Loyalties, not as a part of the Decca, but as a very loved and respected mentor figure to the Doctor. There's just a lot of callbacks and cheeky connections, but the general vibe is that the Doctor was friends with the Master, the Ronnie, and some other Time Lords during school, and they were all very curious and rebellious. Leonardo is a show centered around the teenage Leonardo da Vinci, which aired on the CBBC channel from 2011 to 2012. Frankly, it's a very fun and enjoyable show, and, you know, has one of those weekly dilemma kind of formulas to it. There's also an overarching story about, like, a secret society trying to overthrow those in power. Nate's Tumblr post and the rumor, rightfully so, right away identify Leonardo as the young Doctor character. He's an inventor, he's witty, he's charming, he's very loyal to his friends, So you can see pretty easily how that kind of fits the mold of the Doctor. But to add to the evidence, he's always got some sort of trick or idea up his sleeve. He likes to look at stars. He's sometimes oblivious to romantic advances being made towards him. And just in general, he talks so much like the Doctor. Another main character is Lisa, who disguises herself as a boy so that she can study the arts because it's illegal at the time for a girl to do so. And yes, her name is Lisa, as in Mona Lisa. The comparison made here is to the Rani, and I think it's a pretty fair comparison. I mean, there's only 2 girls in the Decca. She's definitely not a millennia. But we don't see a lot of the Rani in Divided Loyalties or in, I believe, any other content that's set in the Academy era. So the only comparison you really have to make is to her classic Who character, which is very, very different from Lisa. But I guess you could attribute that to maybe age and experience differences. But also, one of my friends points out that the Rani kind of infamously has a minefield that you have to navigate through to get the rights to use her character. So this could also just be an entirely different character. Then there is Niccolo Machiavelli, who is also just referred to as Mac. He's a good friend with Leo's, and he helps out with a lot of different schemes, whether they're related to Leonardo or not. But he's very savvy, he has a lot of connections and ideas. And the comparison made here is to the Master because of some of the deals he carries out. Again, there's that element of like working with spies and tricksters and things. There's also a couple of times where he doesn't necessarily betray Leo, but he goes against his ideals, which kind of fits that Doctor-Master dynamic. Because these 3 are considered to be like the golden trio of the Academy era, and just in general, they're the members of the Decca who have the most presence and impact on the actual main show itself, it makes sense that they would be the 3 main characters in this show, so I'm gonna go ahead and just say that's solid. There is one more member of the young adult cast, Lorenzo de' Medici. The post does mention the monk as a character that Lorenzo could be compared to, and I am leaning towards that because, like I said, with the Doctor, the Master, and the Rani, the monk also has the most presence and impact on the actual show itself, so they'd get a few more points if Lorenzo was like a recognizable character. And also, though he is a friend, he's not as close of a friend to the Doctor / Leonardo as Machiavelli is. Reading more into Divided Loyalties and the monk's inclusion in that, I could find more comparisons between the 2. For example, in Divided Loyalties, the monk is kind of shown as like kind of butting into things a little bit and trying to be included, but still being outside of the group. Which matches the energy that Lorenzo has in the series. So between Machiavelli and Lorenzo, there are a ton of comparisons I could make to other Decca members, but purely because I truly do strongly believe that if this rumor is true, they would have gone with the most recognizable characters. I'm gonna forego all of that. And Maestro Verrucchio is another side character who is compared to Asmael, which I agree with. They're both mentor figures, they're both respected by the Doctor and Leonardo respectfully, and he kind of sticks up for and roots for and supports the main cast despite being a little bit strict, which fits the vibes of how Asmael is described in Divided Loyalties. Finally, there is Piero de' Medici, who is compared to Barusa. This character is up to no good. He is the head of the secret society that steals Leonardo's notebook and plans to use the ideas for all sorts of evil purposes. Now, I don't actually know a lot about Barusa, shamefully. There's like one person in specific that is gonna have to ignore that I just said that. But he is a, political character. He's somewhat high up. He is respected, but also sus, which matches Piero de' Medici in Leonardo. So that's the characters. Let's move on to the actual story of the show itself. I think the best thing to do going forward is I'm going to use the Doctor Who characters' names in place of the Leonardo characters' names instead of using both. After all, the rumor we're working with claims that 99% of the concept is the same, so I'm going to kind of just have fun speculating and exploring this as if that were true, and I'll have a little key off to the side to explain who is who. When Series 1 begins, the Rani finds herself in Florence, aka insert Time Lord City here, to study. She is abducted, however, by a secret society who offers to get her a good position as a student if she helps steal the Doctor's notebook for them. This notebook contains some of the Doctor's best ideas and inventions, and the purpose of the secret society stealing this notebook is so that they can create tools and weapons to overthrow those who are in power on Gallifrey. Now, the Time Lords love their secret societies and political secrecy, so this could literally be anything, but it is worth mentioning that in Divided Loyalties, the CIA does work with a member of the Decca to keep tabs on the Doctor. Like, that's just another similarity between this rumor, the concept, and the canon Academy material that we have, especially since the Tumblr post brings up the Doctor's future being foreseen. Despite the initial betrayal, the Rani very easily befriends the Doctor and the Master, and they get up to all sorts of shenanigans together. Each episode essentially starts with some sort of dilemma or some secret being revealed that they pursue out of curiosity, and the monk either butts in or gets dragged in and is just about able to drum up some sort of wit, though he's usually a last-minute addition. But since he's trying to impress Barusa so much, he sometimes doesn't want to be included in plans or can't be included in plans. There's always a little bit of conflict and a close call, but the day is always saved by some quick thinking and savvy ideas from the Doctor. A familiar formula. And really quick, because apparently you can't have young adult media without it, there's a little bit of a love triangle situation going on between the Doctor, the Rani, and the Master. I highly doubt this had anything to do with the young Doctor situation, and of course the rumor itself is in speculation, but it was just a time imagining that might have been a thing. But anyway, the majority of the show follows that formula, and I will say that the Doctor Who vibes are really strong, specifically Jonathan Bailey's performance as Leonardo. It's kind of at the point where if you've ever wondered what Jonathan Bailey might be like as the Doctor, you can just watch Leonardo. The rumor also mentions that the show would have had actual futuristic technology, and this is another point where the potential for it to be a Doctor Who spinoff really does shine through. I'm not super knowledgeable on what all Leonardo da Vinci invented, but I'm pretty sure, like, a BMX bike was not amongst those things. And just in general, he doesn't actually do that much inventing throughout the show. It's mainly just like little quick tricks and such. So it does seem like maybe they didn't quite know what to do with the whole invention aspect of things, which could have happened as a result of pivoting from a very futuristic, very advanced sort of setting. I have to mention this bit. There is an episode of the show where they talk about time travel and the key to time. Now granted, the characters are talking about time travel because it's ye olden days and nobody knows what a watch does, so it's played very seriously that they all think that this pocket watch is going to give them the ability to time travel, including a little bit at the end where it is implied that a character does time travel. But I mean, really, the key to time? I mean, I'll show some clips so you can see how crazy this is.
The key to time. The key to time. If he goes back in time, relives his past, he might not meet your mum. You might never be born.
Could be nothing, but it was just a wild thing to watch, knowing that the whole reason I was even watching the show in general was because it was potentially a Doctor Who spin-off that got respun. The finale of season 1 also features this large robot based off of the Doctor's designs that they have to come up with a good idea and a quick plan to defeat, which is just very Doctor Who. Circling back to the beginning of the video, Russell T Davies did shoot down this young Doctor Who spin-off idea, and this would have had to have happened in the early to mid 2000s, as Gary Russell's Doctor Who The Inside Story, which was published in 2006, I believe, mentions this happening. Rumor claims, though, that 99% of the concept was kept, that they already had outlines, cast, costumes. The thing is, outside of the rumor, we don't really have any way of knowing what stage the young Doctor proposal would have been at. I mean, it could have very well just been an email sent to Russell T Davies one day and nothing really came of it, because I do doubt that they would have had so much at the ready for a show that they didn't even know that they would be making yet. The Wikipedia page for the Leonardo show says that it began as a novel idea that would have shown Leonardo da Vinci as a teenage Renaissance Batman. And then the idea got picked up and, pre-produced in 2009 to 2010, which would have been a couple of years after Russell T Davies already shut down the Young Doctor spin-off idea. Furthermore, even though the vibes are really similar, the premise of Leonardo isn't really that unique. I mean, how many shows, especially children's shows, do we have about a witty genius and his friends getting into all sorts of trouble and having to use quick thinking and fun ideas and teamwork to get out of it? Vibes are strong, like I just went over. There were times where it felt almost way too easy to insert the Doctor Who characters into this world, into this plot, into these scenes. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that I also feel like it's not totally out of the realm of possibility to think that CBBC maybe saw the premise for Leonardo, realized that they were already kind of doing something similar back in the day, and they Frankensteined the two underdeveloped ideas together. Especially since the vibes match a Doctor character a lot better than a teenage Renaissance Batman type. And it would have been easy to Frankenstein this way if the spinoff did already truly have that much planned out. I'm so interested to know if this rumor is true, especially because I could not find barely any information about the Young Doctor Who spinoff whole fiasco or about the production of Leonardo. In the meantime, though, it's just incredibly fun to speculate and imagine, even if for a moment, that it was true. Leonardo is a great show in and of itself, and if you are looking for a piece of media that has Young Doctor Who vibes or Academy era vibes, I think you'd really enjoy it. If the rumor is true, would you have liked the show? Do you think it would have fit with the Doctor, the Master, and the Whoniverse as a whole? But that is all for me today, you guys. I have had so much fun exploring this topic. It's been like 4 days now of nonstop obsession, and I would love to drag you into it with me. But even if I can't, I hope you're staying safe, happy, and healthy. I hope you're having a great day, night, whatever time it is for you, and please have a wonderful Pride Month, and don't forget that transgender rights are human rights.